Hi there, Robin here, and today we are going to be talking about this radio right here. It's a head unit for either your boat, your ATV, whatever you've got. If you're looking for a radio that is good at being moisture resistant and has Bluetooth on it, plus AM/FM radio with an aux, this is going to be the way to go. We're going to see it in black, but it's also available in white, which is called the PLMRB29B, W for white, B for black, and these also get put in a lot of packages. So if you see the same radio, it's the same radio. So Pyle makes about a dozen different models, and they're all very similar when it comes to 6 of them, both in black and white, 3 series, which are very close to each other. It's just going to be when we actually power it up, the way the display on this particular one lays out, and the way the back blue LED lights up. That's going to be the big feature on it. Now it's got a basket connection to it, so this way is how you're going to get it in a splash guard or straight into your install. You don't need to get a splash guard, but optional. You can get a unit like this, which allows you to slide the radio in. You'll put the basket in here, which is right behind this door, and it'll protect it. So, because remember, it's not splash proof. It's marine grade to the sense that it's waterproof. So if it's not going into a dash somewhere enclosed, you might want to get yourself one of these. They come in black trim or white trim. This happens to be a white trim. And this is definitely the way to protect it in case you think it's going to get splashed by water or mud or whatever not. But again, this is an option. It is called the PLMRB29B. We have one right here in the box. This is what we're talking about right here. So option, good option if it's going to be exposed to the weather or to splashing from water. Now back to the radio. So when you buy it, yes, you get the radio, you get the mounting basket. There are some accessories in the box. As this radio currently stands, it has 2 harnesses on the back of it. One harness is going to be dedicated for all the speaker wires, and the second harness is going to be dedicated for the power. Also, there is RCA output for front left and right, rear left and right, and there's an antenna right next to it. Now, if you want to use the radio, you're going to need to get yourself an antenna if you don't currently have one on your boat or ATV. This happens to be a flexible antenna. This just gets plugged in the back, and you just throw this up or down. Now, this is good for a wood or fiberglass install. This is not good for a metal boat, just like why we don't have these in cars. And for reference sake, this is called the PLMRNT1. There you go. Also in the box, some keys, and I'll show you how that works. That's to release and unlock the basket. You're also going to get a remote control. If you'd like the remote control, don't lose it because, you know, it's a small remote control. And amazingly enough, besides the instruction manual and warranty card, they're going to give you, I'm going to dig these out of the bag here. This is always impressive, these little things. You get 4 of these little rubber stoppers. Now, if we turn the radio back towards us, we're going to see that there's a rubber stopper here. They literally give you 5 of these rubber stoppers. This is for your aux, your 3.5 input. To make sure that that door stays properly closed and no water gets in there, they give you 5 of those. But yet right over here we have an SD slot, which is wide open. So I really appreciate this. The SD slot, not so much. People do use it though, because that's your MP3 player along with your USB port. Your USB port on this unit, by the way, is 500 millivolts, so that would be a very slow charge. It's usually used as an MP3 player. Also coming out of the box is the manual, and of course warranty cards like we mentioned before. So we'll put all that aside. The book, before we get to the actual unit, is really nice. It's laid out well. They do give you all the instructions for the actual speaker wire and the harnessings all here. They of course give you cautionary tales. If when you're hooking it up, start off with the ground. We do not want to have a common ground effect happen through the speakers or anything else because we hooked up the positive before the ground. So as I say here, it is only a 12 volt system and you want to hook up that ground first. Outside of that, they just go through how the key assembly works, how the install works, the overall DIMMs on it. They run through all the features, and they do a good job at it. I mean, that's pretty much what we're going to look at when we're looking at the radio, because there are a lot of buried features, and we'll run through those as well. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it just keeps going on, tells you what the remote can and can't do, and tells you how to change the battery. It's always a good way, something to know, especially before you throw the manual away. So what we're going to do now is we are going to slide the basket off, show you how that comes off. There's 2 ways. Now, of course, if you're installing it, you just basically have to unlock the sides of the unit. So you can grab your little key, it's got a little flip on it, get underneath there, pull it up, pull back on the basket a little bit. There's a little notch there that's catching on. We're just getting it off that little notch. We're going to repeat the same thing on this side, get the key out of the way, and there you go. this will slide right off. Now, for people who have done this several times, it's nice to know that they do put the instructions of the wiring harness on the actual unit itself, which is always a great little shortcut instead of having to go reference to the book all the time. The other amazing thing is it's very generic. The cover plate, the baskets, all these things from, I'm going to say the bulk of the manufacturers out there all work exactly the same. I want to take the cover plate off. I just have to lift this up a little bit. If you're having a hard time, you can slide the key in there. I just want to get this up a little bit. And I'm going to repeat the same thing on this side here. There's no notches on the side. The notches are on top and about a 1/4 point on each end. This unlocks the actual frame if I want to take it off. The cover plate frame is now off. No worries there. To get it in the basket after you've installed it, you just slide it in. Make sure these guys are pushed in slightly after your install, because sometimes they do get pushed out a little bit. So again, when you're using the basket, there are no actual screws in here. All you need to do is bend up these actual flaps here to tension it and tighten it into place, and that's it. You've done your job for the install. Again, if you're using the splash guard, you're going to follow the same instructions. Now, the unit is a plastic metal body hybrid, which is all buried inside there, and then they wrap the whole thing to make it as sealed as possible. So what we'll do just before we power it up is look at the harnesses. The first harness has 8 wires on it, and there's a green pair, a white pair, a gray pair, and a purple pair. And if you've ever installed a radio in the last 20, 30, 40 years, these colors are very standard. The harnesses are different, but the colors are standard. So if you're removing a radio and putting a new one in, you can use the old radio, if it worked properly, as a reference to wiring up the new radio, and then you'll be able to just plug the harnesses in the back. So that would be our speaker. Same thing follows true when it comes to the power. Again, if you're doing a re and the old one did work properly. So here's the actual power harness. Now, this one only represents 4 wires, and the first one is the red wire, which is the accessory wire. The accessory wire is used to actually turn the unit on and off by using an accessory outlet. This is something that goes on and off when you take the key in and out of the boat or ATV or quad or whatever you're putting it in. If you put this on something that actually doesn't work when the key's removed, this will power down the unit just like it does in your car. The second wire is a blue wire. This blue wire is a remote wire. This is if you're going to run an amplifier. It was originally made for power antennas, but now it's a trigger, basically like an on-off switch. It turns your amplifiers on and off. The next 2 are larger wires. The ground wire, which is the first wire you are going to connect to the battery. This wire either goes to your fuse box if it's grounded that way, or it's going to get dedicated grounding straight to the battery or to the frame of the vehicle. Last one is the yellow wire. This is also the main positive power wire. This is the wire that's going to get constant power, and usually it's either in the fuse panel or it's going to be directly on the battery itself. Make sure if you're going to connect it to the battery that you do use a fuse on top of this closer to the battery, more for your safety than anything else. Outside of that, if you don't have a key for the boat or for the unit and you don't care about the memory of the actual unit going off and resetting itself every time you take the key in and out or you turn off the main power, you can put these 2 wires together. But remember, whenever the power is off completely, the actual radio is going to lose all radio presets, the clock is going to go back to factory, and the bass and treble settings will go back to where they were. If you have the ability to have this on constant power, all those memory functions will remain. I mean, that's no more than having a clock run inside your vehicle. So not really a power draw on the unit when you actually leave it hooked up properly. And that gets plugged in to the back here. Now, the unit does have a fuse, which is built in right off to the side. It's a 10 amp fuse. It's the red fuse, just plugs into standard automotive fuse. So it's easily replaced if need be. And there you go. That's everything for the unit when it comes to wiring. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to power it up so we can have a look-see at what the display looks like. All right, so here we are. We have it all plugged in now. We've got a power supply that's low ripple. It's a regulated power supply. It's called a PS9KX. If you're looking for a 13.8 volt, which is what this really likes to have, and 5 amps, that's the way to go. When we're ready to turn this on, all we need to do is press the power button up on top. That's the button right up in the top left-hand corner. And then on the bottom of that, you've got your bands. You can go from your AM, your 3 FM options, back to AM, of course. And then if you actually tap on the power button, it'll switch between the aux, which is a 3.5 connection. Press it again. Bluetooth, which allows you to pair off. If I had a USB or SD card in here, I'd be able to press that button again and it would show that. Without it, it just skips over and goes right back to radio. On the right side, it's got an automatic music search for the tuner, so if you're dropping your boat in different places or you're constantly having to kill the power on it, that's a great button to have. Again, your clock is located right here. If we actually push on the button, we're going to get features like our bass, our treble, our balance, and our fade option. It also has built-in EQ options, so if you don't use bass and treble, you can just go through classic, rock, pop, flat, that sort of thing. And again, then you've got your loudness on-off option, your local distance setting for your radio, stereo, mono, and your clock settings. Now the unit also has a built-in microphone, so when you do pair off this, it's not a media device, it's actually a hands-free, so it does play your music, and it also takes your calls via the microphone that's built right into it. On the top right hand corner, there's a reset. So I took a pin or a needle and I stuffed it in there and I just clicked the button that's behind here. It'll reset the entire unit back to factory. At the bottom is where they line up your presets for your radio stations, plus options like your random play, your repeat, your play pause, all that kind of stuff. Just down here on the very last button's mute, which is kind of nice because opposite to the volume knob. The volume is easy, it's digital, just goes straight up and down, and that's pretty much it. Outside of that, that's what makes this so popular. Remember, there's a little film on here. You can peel that off when you're all done your job. Outside of that, remember, there is a remote control in the package, and the remote control is going to run all the basic functions that we saw on the unit here. If you connect to your Bluetooth, all the basic functions could be used on the unit or straight off your phone. And there you go. No more complicated than that. Nice, easy unit to install. So big question, do I recommend this? Of course I recommend this. This is great. This is a great seller for us. You'll really enjoy using it. If you're looking for a basic functionality with good amount of power with all the important features on it, because really that's what it comes down to, is all the features that are included at the price. The price is also as important as everything else because that's what draws you in. You're not going to be disappointed with it. It has all the features and functionality of what you're looking for in a radio. If you need more power than this, then you're going to get yourself an amplifier, but that's okay because you'll be able to plug that in through the RCA cables. So that's going to wrap up this video because we've pretty much covered everything. I hope this video helped you in your buying decision. Remember, you can get it in black and you can get it in white. There are no feature differences between the color. Also, it's available in packages as well with some speakers and some wire stuff like that. So you do have those options as well. So I'd like to say thanks for watching and maybe we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.